Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. I hope you all are doing well. So there comes another video. The title is Ghiyasud-din-balban. Ghiyasud-din-balban, the notable name which can't be denied easily. He was none other than a great warrior, ruler and statesman of the Delhi Sultanate. Ghiyasud-din-balban, who ruled India as a Sultan of Delhi from 1266 to 1287 AD, was one of the greatest sultans of the medieval period. The notable ruler after Razia Sultan. He was the ninth Sultan of the Mamluk Dynasty. As we know that the Mamluk or the slave dynasty was founded by none other than Qutbuddin Aibak. So following the rulers, the ninth Sultan we see was Ghiyasud-din Balban. Ghiyasud-din Balban was the Wazir of Nasiruddin Mahmud, the eighth ruler of Mamluk dynasty. He was born of Turkish origins. Balban, like his master Iltutmish, was born in a Turkish family of Ilbari tribe. So he was born of Turkish origins and his original and real name was Bahauddin. The period of Ghiyasud-din Balban is marked as the magnificent chapter of the medieval period and the Indian history. Following towards the introduction, we move towards the background of Ghiyasud-din Balban, that how did he become the ruler and sultan of the Delhi Sultanate or the Mamluk dynasty. Firstly, we see his journey as a slave. Ghiyasud-din Balban was kidnapped by the Mongols in his early youth along with many youngsters of his age. He was sold to a slave trader named Khwaja Jamaluddin of Basra. Khwaja Jamaluddin of Basra took him to Delhi where he was purchased by Iltutmish. During his stay at Delhi, Iltutmish was very much impressed by the intelligence and ability of Ghiyasud-din Balban that he enrolled him as a member of the famous corps of the 40 slaves. These famous corps of the 40 slaves will be mentioned in the coming video. So we see that he was kidnapped and he became the slave, and then he came under the eye of Iltutmish. So Iltutmish enrolled him as the member of 40 corps slaves. Then his journey didn't stop there. During the reign of Razia Sultan, what he did? So during the reign of Razia Sultan, he was promoted to the post of Amir-e-Shikar, the Lord of the Hunt. He was very loyal to Razia Sultan in his early days, but later on, he joined hands with the nobles who deposed Razia Sultan from the throne of Delhi successfully. The next point. He repelled Mongol invasion during the reign of Behram Shah. The next ruler after Razia Sultan was Behram Shah, who gave him the Jagir of Rewari and Hansi instead of his service to him. So Behram Shah didn't want Ghiyasud-din Balban to perform the important task for him. Instead, he gave him certain territories to rule. Moreover, he played the role of a kingmaker as well. As a great warrior, he also successfully repelled a Mongol invasion during the period of Behram Shah, which made him the rising and a capable personality. Similarly, he was instrumental in disposing Masood and raising Nasiruddin Mahmud to the throne of Delhi. As a result, when Nasiruddin accessed to the throne, he rewarded Balban by offering the post of principal advisor to the Sultan. He also strengthened his relations with Sultan Nasiruddin Mahmud by his daughter in marriage to him. In the previous times, during the Mughal Sultanate and the Mughal Empire and the Delhi Sultanate, any any notable ruler who wanted to strengthen his relations or wanted to conquer any area, the tradition was very common to do a marriage contract with a powerful family as well. So that's what Ghiyasud-din-balban did. He married the daughter of Nasiruddin Mahmud. So Nasiruddin Mahmud Sultan, being pleased with the devotion and the loyalty of Ghiyasud-din-balban, bestowed on him the title of Ulugh Khan and made him Naib Sultanate or Deputy Sultan. So this was perhaps Nasiruddin Mahmud was weak and incompetent, and he was relying more and more on him for the management of state affairs. Resultantly, the real power gradually passed into the hands of Balban, and we see the accession to the throne of the Ghiyasud-din Balban as the ninth Sultan of the Mamluk Dynasty. So the power and popularity of Balban grew more and more. He put down a number of rebellions and also kept a check on the external aggressions, especially of Mongols. The Sultan Nasiruddin Mahmud considered him the very important and imperative person that he nominated Balban as his successor. As he Nasiruddin Mahmud died in 1266. So from 1266 here starts the journey of Ghiyasud-din Balban as a sultan. So the journey of Ghiyasud-din Balban wasn't easy. While he was access to the throne, there he faced a plethora of problems to the throne. The affairs of the state had fallen into the confusion, as well as the prestige of the crown had sunk low due to the misrule of the weak and incompetent Iltutmish successors. The power of the nobles had increased, and the majority of the members of the famous 40 corpse slaves had become disloyal to the throne. So he faced a number of problems, including the weak and incompetent Iltutmish successors. The second one was the administration. The 40 corpse slaves were seen proud, jealous, envious, and arrogant of Balban. In the words of Barani, if we see that fear of the governing power, which is the fear of all good governments and the source of the glory and splendor of the state, had departed from the hearts of the men, and the country had fallen into a wretched condition. So that was the supremacy of the Ghiyasud-din-balban, that how did he manage the falling country, and how did he make it stand as a firm state or the sultanate. The third main difficulty he faced was that the royal treasury was empty, the empty royal treasury. And the army wasn't well organized. The Mongol invasion was imminent, as well as the internal rebellions were raising their heads at regular intervals. So, such was a critical stage when Balban had been given the responsibility of face and fight. However, he proved himself to be more than equal for them. So that's how we see that Balban's accession to the throne wasn't a bed of roses, instead it was a bed of thorns for him. But although it was a bed of thorns for him, he didn't give up, but he continued to struggle, he continued to make everything right, and finally he did it. So we see that there were many difficulties in restoring the crown's prestige. So let's see that how did he do. Thus, the Ghiyasud-din Balban restored the crown's prestige. He restored the crown's prestige and faced the early difficulties by adopting the theory of kingship, by destroying the 40 corpse slaves, by adopting a spy system, and by reorganizing the army, by suppressing the rebellions, and by facing the rebellion in Bengal and the Mongol invasion. From all these points, we see that how difficult Balban's reign was. But he didn't give up and he continued to progress in every way. So the first one was theory of kingship. Balban had realized that without the restoration of the crown's prestige, which had sunk low during the rule of weak successors of Iltutmish, no better and effective government could be possible. He also knew that this could be restored through the policy of absolute despotism. He believed this can be the only way out. Thus, he adopted the theory of kingship. He also knew that in order to be a successful despot, one must follow the theory of kingship, the right to rule is given by the god, not by the people, and for his actions, whether good or bad, the ruler is only accountable or answerable to God, but not to the people he rules. Thus, Balban continued his theory of kingship, his concept of kingship. At first, he made out his concept of kingship to his subjects. He maintained an ample distance from the people and denied to meet the common people of the dynasty. He organized his court on Iranian model and followed the etiquette and ceremonials of the Persians very strictly. The next thing, having a long beard on his long face and wearing a big crown on his head, he sat on the throne with the dignity of the great Sassanid kings. He ordered for sajda and feet kissing as the normal form of salutation and even smile, and he prohibited drinking, jokes, laugh, and even smile among the courtiers and officers. Moreover, he himself also gave up wine. He also dismissed all low-born persons from important offices of his administration. Thus, Balban, by displaying his power, authority, and dignity, struck terror in the hearts of people, making them submissive. So, this was the right step at the time for the restoration of the crown's prestige. The next one was the destruction of the 40. So, destruction of the 40, it was a selected body of Turkish noble 40 created by Iltutmish, a better and effective administration. The members of this selected body were chosen on the basis of loyalty and their meritorious services. But Balban clearly knew that in the path of his despotism or tyranny, these 40 corps would be a great obstruction. And without its despotism, he couldn't achieve his goal. So he planned to bring them under control by destroying their organization. At first, so next comes the spy system. The next system, the next point or the reform he made, that was introducing or adopting spy system in order to restore the crown's prestige. He organized an efficient system of espionage as an instrument of his despotism. He appointed reporters and news writers in every department in every province and district to collect information of various happenings in the state. They did it with utmost honesty and secrecy. If any one of them didn't do this, they had to face severe punishment. And they did. One of the news reporter at Badon was hanged over the city gate because he failed to report in time regarding the misconduct of Malik Baghdad. So they were highly paid and were independent of the control of the governors and commanders. Moreover, if we see the spy system, they were also rewarded for their daring services, with the result the internal rebellions couldn't take place and Ghiyasud-din-balban, though this system of espionage could keep effective control over the government and controlled the law and order situation. The next one was reorganization of the army. Balban reorganized his army and made it strong and efficient as it was the main pillar of his despotent government. The lands were given to the widows of the military officers. So next one was suppression of rebellions. So by reorganizing the army, Balban could easily suppress his rebellions. And in Bengal, he also suppressed his rebellions, and then there comes the Mongol invasion. The Mongol invasion was also repelled by the Balban's army in a very well-mannered way. So that's how we see Ghiyasuddin Balban in his in his long rule of 40 years, 20 years as prime minister and 20 years as sultan. He he brought a revolutionary change in the period of Delhi Sultanate or the Mamluk Dynasty. If we see his personality, he was a great patron of learning and education. He had provided scope and facilities to large number of learned men. The great Persian poet Amir Khusro and Amir Hassan flourished during his time. Besides, he was a very affectionate father. He dearly loved his sons and relations. Moreover, he was a very religious person and had a great respect for ulamas. On the other side of the picture, he was a very harsh person. He didn't used to forgive anybody even for small offense. He didn't care for the means of the achievement of his goal. Balban didn't let live the men of low birth, and he had great hatred for Indian Muslims. He always insisted on high birth and appointed the men of Turkish origin in army. For that he couldn't raise a vast army. However, he was one of the greatest sultans of the Delhi Sultanate. Balban Balban's health gradually declined after the shock of his son's death. He was old but was at quite advanced stage of his life. Realizing his end, he summoned his youngest son, Bughra Khan, as the governor of Delhi. But Bughra Khan, apprehending some danger, didn't turn up, so Balban then nominated Kai Khusrav, the son of his eldest son, Prince Muhammad Khan, as his heir. So, resultantly, he died in 1287 at the age of 80.